TNCRadio.LIVE, your commercial driver navigation station.
Good afternoon. This is TNCRadio.LIVE, and this is the Truckers Network Radio Show with your host, Shelley Johnson.
Thank you, Tom. Yes, this is the Truckers Network Radio Show on TNCRadio.LIVE. We're all about the news, talk, information, and entertainment that drivers want to hear. Ice Road Alex is one of the original stars of Ice Road Truckers. He's best described as John Wayne driving a truck. Alex Debogorski has achieved international acclaim on the History Channel's most successful TV series that's seen in 180 countries. And before Ice Road, he was also known for Deadliest Roads. Alex is opinionated, passionate, articulate, and intelligent. He's a firebrand who believes in hard work and giving back. He's authored a book called King of the Road, True Tales from a Legendary Ice Road Trucker. He's also thinking about running for office, from what I've read, and would really like to be on Dancing with the Stars. Welcome, Alex. I'm really looking forward to this interview. Thank you for being on the show with us.
Hello. Good to hear from you.
You know, you've been a really busy guy, and from what I was reading, you've had an interesting set of adventures on your road to fame. You had a very modest beginning, and you're certainly a testament to the value of hard work, which our drivers can really appreciate. Tell us about who Alex is.
Well, I started out on a mixed farm. Dad and Mom came from Europe. Dad was in the British military for 12 years, and Mom was mixed up in the Polish and French underground, and they met in London, and one thing and another, they end up in Canada, and I was raised in a farm, and I guess we were poor, but we never did feel poor. I didn't really get, I don't think we had TV until I was about grade 10, and that's the same time we got power. And from there, I went to high school, went to university for 1 year, and then I was thinking about being a lawyer, and I ended up getting married, and then I guess the first good job I had was at the coal mine, hauling coal for a couple of years, and I sort of got addicted to adrenaline there, because we killed a driver every 6 months, and if two died, then we're good for a year. And as a matter of fact, I ran into the fellow that hired me there back in, I don't know, that was in the early 70s, 72 or something, and he said in the office they had a pot where they put money in the pot, and they all picked the next driver to die, and they keep accumulating, and then when somebody got killed, one of them, the management would get the pot. And he said, "I always bet on you." He says, "You cost me a lot of money because I survived." And then from there, I ended up in Yellowknife, and I started a proprietorship, Eagle North Contracting there. I did some carpentry work, owned some mobile homes. I was back in my 20s. First couple of years, I worked 4 jobs. I went up there for Robinson Trucking, and then they laid me off, and then I started working all the other jobs, balancing, taxi, carpentry, and I worked day and night until I started making me sick, and then I eventually went down to just my business and bought a couple old trucks and then little cats and stuff, and I started doing landscaping. And one of the things in the north, in the wintertime, the lakes and the rivers become roadways. So, we have native communities out there that aren't accessible except by airplane in the summer, and then little diamond mines and gold mines, and so I'd haul stuff there to these places as part of my business. And one day, quite a few years later, the TV cameras, we had TV cameras all the time. Once in a while, the Chinese, more Japanese, the Germans, they'd show up and they'd come and, film for a couple of days, the trucks working on the ice. And then TV cameras showed up, and they started looking into doing this ice road trucking, and they were doing this with the company I was with, and Cliche, and they decided to do it, and then we ended up doing the show. in the meantime, I had my wife and I had 11 children since then. One of the boys
awesome.
passed away, but then and worked lots of hours. We had fires, my house. The last time I washed dishes, the kids lit the bed on fire. We burnt the trailer down.
Geez.
That was about 30 years ago. Back in 2019, after Ice Road Truckers, my shop burnt up, my truck burnt up, and I'm still rebuilding that. Bought another truck, and with all the kids there, they lit a few things on fire. The chicken coop burnt down. We lost a hen and a rooster. I think the rooster was smoking in bed. That's what I thought. But I was on the ice road, so I wasn't there when it happened. I think So there's always excitement, especially if you've got a big family and doing lots of work, and a lot of times you're tired. I broke both ankles and both legs, and I've had, open heart surgery when I was 48. I got, all sorts of health problems, probably induced by overdoing it, and I still do, but I'm still doing the best I can, and hope the good Lord lets me work till I'm at least 85, and then we'll reevaluate.
There you go. Well, at least you're not bored.
Yeah, every day is a good day.
I imagine that you've taught your family, and by the way, what a wonderful a family of 11 children. That's got to be so gratifying and challenging at the same time. But I'm sure you've got some great stories to tell about that too. I bet you've taught your children who are grown now a lot about how to do something. You don't seem like the type of guy who says, gee, you can't,
Well, so we have 16 grandchildren, I think, and one great-grandchild, and they're all still having sex, from my understanding. I told my children I wanted to make them supermen and superwomen, and they fought me all the time. They want to be a bunch of bums. They want to be, well, my friends don't do that, and my friends don't do that, and my friend's dad said that, so it's always a challenge. But I said, you may not, unless for the blessing of God, you're going to be supermen and superwomen, but you guys aren't going to be a bunch of bums either. And then, most of the children, most of them have, we've got nurses, we got 2 Ford mechanics. I mean, I drive GMs, but they slipped a little bit there. I had 2 uncles were Ford mechanics, 2 Ford Mercury mechanics, and one owns a business. So he used to be with corrections forever, and he owns a business down south, and he does well at that. And most of the kids are doing well, and I don't have to worry about following them around, and I don't go chasing them. I just make sure they know where I am, and if they need me, they can call.
There you go. Well, I imagine they do pick up the phone and say, hey, Dad, what do you think of this? Because you're a wealth of knowledge, and you certainly have the determination. And it doesn't sound like you're afraid of anything. Were you at all hesitant when you first went out on the ice road? Well,
yes. First on the ice roads, because when I first went on the ice roads, there's no regulation. I was going on ice roads, which a guy called me up and said, I want a load of gravel. I live out in Prelude Lake. Can you please, he's there in the wintertime, so he's got ice. He doesn't drive over to his house or cabin with the boat. Bring me a load of gravel. So I had to decide, well, can I make it across the ice? So I spend the whole time praying, going with a load of gravel and going back. There's lots of ice. It's February. It should be okay. And there's lots of cracking and all the noises along with it. And I'd get there and back, and I was really happy to be off the ice. And I had a couple of jobs where 50 kilometers on the ice for buddies of mine that said, there's a diamond play on the stock market, and they're looking for diamonds. And I went out, and it was like 50 kilometers on Great Slave Lake. And I went out, and there's lots of ice. We tested it all. I drove there, and I was hauling a bunch of equipment in. It was on a tandem, low boy, but it's still, I probably weighed around, 40,000, maybe a little more, a little bit less. And and the road wasn't plowed. It was just the width of the truck. There's a place where the snow is deep. I couldn't do. The ice was very rough underneath because the wind was blowing when the ice froze in the fall, and I couldn't move 6 inches because the snow was right against the tires. It was just straight down a trough of snow, so I couldn't do anything, besides barely open the door. And I got down and got back, and after I finished that job, in the summertime, the next summer, I said, well, I was talking about how thick the ice was, and it was okay. They said, well, there's about 100 yards, there's less than 6 inches. I said, are you serious? They said, oh, well, there's currents in there, but we were sure you would get across. And the funny thing was, that year, I believe that's the year Robinson Trucking went out, and they brought out at the end of winter, they brought out a 892D. That's a 80,000 pound excavator, with on a trailer and truck, and they had a big plow truck with a plow in front of it, and they put it through the ice. And it's sitting there in the bottom of the lake now. There's been arguments with the government things for years because the government wanted them to bring the truck up, and some of the native people figure the truck is polluting the water. It's down 90 feet, and the argument is that as long as it stays down 90 feet, any oils and stuff, the pressure keeps the oils in the truck, so it isn't polluting anything.
Right.
The driver made it there. I knew him very well. He's with Robinson forever and ever. But the end of all things, he got cancer about a year or two later, died from that.
Oh, jeez. Wow. It sounds like there were a lot of challenges there, and I imagine you had a few moments like you were describing where you're kind of thinking, like, what am I doing out here?
It doesn't matter if you're a driver and you're driving like you're driving across there's a truck burning somewhere right now. It's down the shoulder road or in the ditch burning. It is, on its side. It's like you have to pay attention all the time. You have to be because there's things happening all the time. Whether you're on the people say, that stuff's made up, or I've been driving all my life and it wasn't scary. I got these millions of miles. I said, if you think about it, you scare yourself every day. You don't think of it. You just, that's part of the job. A guy cuts you off. A guy slams on his brakes. Numerous of not paying attention. The light changed too fast. It just goes on. And out on the ice the same way. On the ice road truckers even. There's a few times I went out there, didn't have a cab, or even there was a cab, and went down a road that we weren't supposed to go, and halfway down the road we realized, they haven't been putting trucks over there. It was plowed nice and wide on in northern Manitoba there, but there wasn't much ice because it hadn't been opened up long enough. So, whatever it took half an hour to go down that road and get back to the main road, I was biting my lip, wishing I was somewhere else.
Sure. Kind of operating on a hope and a prayer at that point, and then you got back safely. You've got some incredible
prayer. Yeah, prayer is good. Hope is very good. Prayer is very good. That has always helped me out.
The combination of both. Yes, absolutely. We're talking with Alex Debogorski, one of the original stars of Ice Road Truckers here on TNCRadio.LIVE. I'm Shelley Johnson with my co-host Tom Kirk today. Definitely stay tuned for more. Alex has got some great stories, and we're going to be chatting some more right here on TNCRadio.LIVE.
This blog on TNCRadio.live is brought to you by the Truckers Network at app.thetruckersnetwork.net. 4 things to consider before becoming a hazmat tanker driver. The demand for truck drivers is higher than ever. There are many different types of truck driving jobs. Whether you're a new driver or if you already have a couple of years' experience, it's never a bad idea to get new skills and endorsements. Hazmat tanker jobs are one of the many truck driving jobs. If you're considering becoming a hazmat tanker truck driver, here's some things you should know. What is a hazmat tanker? Hazmat truck drivers haul, deliver, and dispose of hazardous materials. Hazardous material can include things like gases, explosives, corrosive chemicals, poisons, and radioactive materials. Hazmat tanker drivers are not limited to hauling only hazardous material. They can also drive a non-hazardous tanker. Have the right requirements. Becoming a certified hazmat tanker driver will require you to add specific endorsements to your already existing CDL. You'll have to undergo training that is specifically designed for transporting and handling hazardous materials. After obtaining your CDL, you'll have to go through a background check and complete the application requirements. The application requires ID proof of being at least 21 years old, proof of citizenship or legal residence, a medical exam and eye exam. You must pass the hazmat knowledge test, too. It's more stressful. Regardless of what you're hauling, being a truck driver is a stressful job. Safety is a top priority for truck drivers, especially for hazmat tanker drivers. Hauling hazardous material means that accidents or spills are much more severe. Hazmat tanker drivers are under much more stress and caution than drivers that haul non-hazardous material. Drivers need to be extra careful and need to plan their routes before driving. It requires a lot of skill. Truck driving is a difficult career, and it's not for everyone. Being a truck driver already requires a lot of skill. For hazmat tanker drivers, there are specific skills that you'll need in order to be successful. Aside from the technical skills, hazmat tankers should also have personal skills. Some personal skills include being punctual, detail-oriented, and patient. These skills will make you a better driver in the long run. You make more money. Hazmat tanker drivers make more money on average. This is because more experience and skills required to haul hazardous loads. According to Salary.com, the average salary for a hazmat tanker driver in the United States is just over $63,000 a year, but the average salary range falls between $55,000 and $72,000 a year. Salary varies from education, certification, experiences, and additional skills. This info blog was brought to you by the Truckers Network at app.thetruckersnetwork.net.
TNCRadio.LIVE, your commercial driver navigation station. This is the Truckers Network radio show on TNCRadio.LIVE. I'm Shelley Johnson, and Tom Kirk is my co-host today. We're talking with Alex Debogorski. He's one of the original stars of Ice Road Truckers, and he's got a wealth of stories and information, and he's quite the inspiration, I think. Alex, what was it like to be on that show? And did you ever think that you were going to be like a TV celebrity?
Well, I don't know. I thought maybe the guy would end up on TV one day. I competed in some like logging type shows and spring carnivals and down in Edmonton, up in the territories and stuff. And, And, the one thing I always told myself, like people say, some people say they like the way that I prayed on the show. And I said, you can blame the NFL for that. Because when I was a kid, I saw once in a while, usually one of the black players that would score a touchdown and kneel down and say prayer, a little prayer at the end of the field after doing that. And I thought, if I ever get on TV, I'm going to do the same thing. So when I did end up on TV, and I thought, well, I better, I've always been saying that, I better do that. When they came to me and they're doing this about the show, they before they do the show, they go out and they interview the characters they plan on having. And it just happened. I was out in Great Slave Lake with a barge, and we're moving equipment to the diamond play I was telling you. I was driving out there in the snow where the ice is a little too thin there for a couple 100 yards, but we were going out there with the barge. We got the storm, so they did all the interviews. They couldn't. They're talking about coming out with a helicopter, landing on the barge. We sat out the storm. We came back to town. And they had to do the interview. My shop at that time, I had 400 watt mercury vapors, and they buzzed, so that was no good for the production team. The cameras couldn't handle the buzzing of the lights, so they came. We went to a friend's place, and his shop was so full of junk. The only place they could they put me in a chair sitting on top of a highboy. That there was enough room on this highboy that I could sit there, and they filmed me. And all I did was tease them. I didn't. I just politically incorrectly teased them, the women, the guys, and everybody. And they asked me a question. I don't think I gave them a straight answer to anything. I just thought it was a big joke. I'd make things up. I just laughed at them because I figured, what are they going to take us, put me on TV and then this ice road truckers? It turned out that's what they wanted. I guess, because that's how it turned out, and they took us and made a show out of it. They didn't, we end up doing Northwest Territories, the Yellowknife, the ice road where I am now. This last winter, I did 28 trips going north, 27 super beads of cement and one van to the diamond mines. And we went there, and then we went to Tuktoyaktuk in northern Canada, up in the Arctic Ocean, and then we went to Alaska. We were out of Fairbanks, going to Prudhoe Bay 2 years, and then they gave me one team. They went one movie team with me, and I went from Whitehorse to Tuktoyaktuk and Watson Lake, and the rest of the guys, they all went to Manitoba, and then after that, I ended up in Manitoba, where we finished doing the last few years of ice road trucking.
So what was it like to have a movie crew with you on the ice road?
If you want to know the truth, it should have been, it should have been, instead of ice road trucking, it should have been distracted driving. Don't you worry, there's a few spinouts where we had to put chains on. Let's say in Alaska, I think of a couple times in Alaska where the producer, which, we started out, we had a producer and a sound man in the truck. And then as time went on, then they kind of made so it didn't spend so much money. We just ended up with a producer, and the producer. Well, not only that, I ended up with the police stopped me one time, and I got a big fine too. But in Alaska, he was talking, and I was answering his questions, and I forgot to throw the diff lock on, and I spun out. And that happened a few times. And sometime afterwards, I used to think maybe sometimes you think they're trying to talk to you just so we have a problem. And then one time I got in Manitoba, that must have cost me close to $1,000. The RCMP, I went across a bridge. We got a chase car behind the truck, and coming out of Thompson, Manitoba, going north. And I was going, a beautiful morning, and the producer was yakking, and there was this plane over there, and what do you think of this, and what do you think of that? And I'm driving along, and I'm looking for, as I come to the bridge, I'm looking for a speed sign. I'm like, I couldn't figure out what the speed's supposed to be. So I continued along the way, and I think a lady producer that time, and she'd probably better years than I had, and I was hauling a 40-foot container, insulated container with a water purifier, purifying unit in there for they're building a new hydro dam, and I happened to look in the mirror, and here's an RCMP car swerving in and out behind my trailer, and he had a yellow jacket, with all the stripes and stuff on there, and I see the red lights on top of the car, and his arms are waving. He didn't hold the steering wheel like he's battered hell. He's waving his arms. I figured, oh, heck, what's he doing there? Here I realized I turned the CB radio down, so I didn't hear the chase car was trying to tell me that there's a cop behind me trying to pull me over. But of course, he was behind a chase car for a while, but I pulled over, and he just screamed and hollered. Holy man, a young French guy from Quebec, Mm-hmm. And I was just, yes sir, no sir, may I kiss your ass, sir? And it's like, yes sir, I looked at this guy. There's no way, there's no use. He wouldn't believe me. I didn't hear his siren. I said, I'm going to. I said, what's the speed limit? Well, it turned out the bridge I went over the bridge at too fast, maybe 20 kilometers an hour too fast. But here I was driving 20 kilometers too slow. And I said, and he was going to call. He said he's going to call in pursuit. Like that means he's going to call all the police cars in the region to come and chase me together, and they're going to stop me.
Oh,
I said, I'm trying to get away at like 70 kilometers an hour. That's like 40 miles an hour, and there's nowhere to go. It's just bush out there. Eh? Like, where am I going? Anyway. There's no arguing. He gave me a ticket, failing to stop for a police officer. It went on and on and on. If I said I was guilty, it was 10 points and immediate. I lose my license. Right there. Like if I went to court and I said I was guilty. So I had to hire, there wasn't a police, not a lawyer. I hired these are ex-policemen that kind of, they do traffic stuff, and they got the ticket down to where, I don't know, I had to pay them a couple $100, and it cost me $400 for this and $400 for that. But yeah, and the movie guys didn't pay for it. Like a lot of guys, the movie does this, that, yeah, right. Yeah. And I had a couple of times that they didn't pay, and I ended up having to pay it, and I had to, protect myself and argue with myself. I had another time up north there. There's a native guy coming with a pickup, a beautiful, brand new Ford pickup. It didn't even have a license plate on it. It had a little card in the back window, a piece of paper. And I was trying to turn a corner, and those big moguls, those big hills, hills right in the middle of the road. And so I stopped. He was parked on a little hill of muskeg on my driver's side, coming towards me, and I was trying to inch by him, and I had about a couple of inches to his pickup, and I thought it probably scared him. Well, I guess I did. Instead of him sitting there, all of a sudden he just stepped on it. I slammed on the brake, and he went down the whole trailer, the brand new shiny silver pickup, and the whole time he's going down, his truck was sideways. His wheels were spinning. He took that pickup box, he just rubbed it down the whole side of the trailer. It didn't hurt the trailer, but it put an awful scar down that new pickup. And then so one thing led to another. That eventually they got a hold of me, and it's going to be my fault. So in the end, I argued with them. The insurance company, they made it a 50-50, no fault, whatever deal. But the movie guys didn't get involved in it, and they should look after all that stuff. But that's a couple of things that happened with me that I wasn't very happy about.
They were just in charge of the cameras and catching it all.
Well, yeah, there's some funny stuff. There was on the movie you might have seen. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of things that didn't good stuff that people would have liked to see. Mm-hmm. That didn't get on there, like I got in a tangle in DOT one time and had him looking right down the camera, into the camera, and we got finished having this argument with DOT sitting in the truck. He looks at the camera and he says, "Is that camera better not be working?" I said, "You're darn right it's working." And he just looked at me and he just jumped down and went back to his truck, and that was the end of it.
That came in handy, huh?
What's that?
That came in handy that there's a camera that was working.
Well, the whole thing is the year before, when the RCMP, when I got that ticket, the RCMP kept telling them put the cameras down, and they put the cameras down, and they're kind of holding them so caught some of the stuff, and really you don't have to put the camera down. You can film the police. It's a public thing,
Sure. Absolutely.
But those guys, they both policemen bullied them, and they didn't do it till this time. That was a year later, and I told the camera guy, this DOT fellow's come to the door. This is legal for you to film, so make sure I'm gonna lean back so you get a nice picture of his blue eyes or brown eyes or what he has, and you just keep shooting them. That's all. Don't listen to this BS. But it was what had happened that time was pretty funny. It was because of my own stupidity. This scale house is never open, and it was in Thompson, and we were going south Bobsdale, and they come along and see the scale was open, but there's a lot of snow that year, and I wasn't sure which way you went into the scale, and I thought this road they came to was for the scale, so I turned in. It was actually for the Petrocan, and then made a left-hand turn because it looked like a side road, like a frontage road. I went down there and ended up, I don't know, there was some kind of a building, and I got all jammed up with the building and the chase car behind me, and got turned around. Lucky I didn't get stuck. In the meantime, I was turning around, looking in the mirror, and I see the DOT was shooting behind me into the Petrocan station, into the fuel station, because he thought I was trying to get away. Because you guys always try to get away by going to the fuel station. It's just short of the scale house. But I got turned around and went to the scale. Well, of course, he was running around in the gas station trying to find me. And I went, and here I was driving on the scale. And of course, I drove on the scale, and I stopped, and the light's green, and it said, "Have a nice day, wear your seatbelt." So I made sure my seatbelt was on and proceeded to have a nice day. Drove off the scale. onto the road. There's a stop sign, stop for a sign. And I could see a big cloud of snow coming. He was coming at the scale house from the other end. I signaled right onto the road. I figured I'm not going to bother shifting gears. He'll be behind me pretty soon. So sure enough, here he showed up. And he comes up there. Why didn't you stop for a scale? I said, I did stop. It said, have a good day, and to put on my seatbelts, which I did both of them, and the light was green. And so here I am. So anyway, that's how the discussion went. And he kept giving me hell, but it didn't make any sense. And finally asked about the camera, and that was the end of that. He's a new guy, and he was he's a little bit over the top, but we didn't do anything wrong, so it turned out all right.
That probably was something he didn't like very much. He kind of had egg on his face at that point.
Yeah, it was. But anyway, they didn't put that in the show, and there's quite a few stories didn't put on the show, and we damaged a few some of those chase cars. They're doing a show, and you got the guy with a camera inside, and we got cameras on the dash, and then we got the car outside that they're filming the tires, they're filming the drive shaft, they're filming everything. And we had a lady producer out of California, and she didn't like getting too cold. She always had her chase car beside her. So you're always, it caused a jam in the road when you went by her. And she had her chase car up by the snowbank, and I was coming around the corner, and she put a go cam on the road, and I was supposed to run. They put a red flag around the go cam, and I was supposed to run the go cam over. I couldn't see where the go cam was until I got closer, and I realized a little bit on the right side to swerve to go over this goal cam and not run it over. Of course, when I swerved, then the van took off. Then I straightened out, but her darn car was against the snowbank, and I didn't feel anything, but the van took off. It went sideways a little bit, and it went through there, and there was no sound. They called back. I didn't hit the chase car, did you? Oh yes, you did. You wiped out the whole side of the chase car. I was like, oh, Dickens. So, I had the best. I had our chase car was mint. There wasn't a scratch on our chase car. I was over there. You remember Rick, the guy with the blue hair?
Yeah. Yep.
I was there, and they said we're taking Rick's chase car back to the rental. These are rentals. To the rental agency. You should have seen this. This SUV, we show up the rental agency, and the lady come out. She says, usually they aren't dented all around and on the roof too. She had the hood. Rick had driven up, or the chase car drove up, and his drive, and Rick was driving, and he was backing up at the same time, and he backed over the hood of the chase car, and it rolled the tin on the hood up, and curled it up about halfway down the hood, so you could see the engine inside, and the hood was all curled up back about halfway, and all sides of it was banged up, eh? So I didn't think I did that bad a job, but this is one of the last trips, I was thinking I got the best chase car. I haven't run into it. We haven't dented it up, and then I wiped it out there at the end.
I'd say,
Alex, I have to ask a question. Please tell me they took out the optional damage waiver. For the rental cars, for the chase cars, because from the sounds of it, they sure needed it.
Well, no, you're right, but I almost don't think they did. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that. They did, the movie outfits. They do some strange stuff, but I didn't really ask them too much questions. I'd seen the less I had in contact with them, the better it was.
I imagine it felt that way some days.
What you mean? They're sitting in their truck, day and night, and so that was about all I handled. I'll tell you, the other one there was a yellow Kenworth. I hit this at low lumber and going down there, and here's a Kenworth with a fuel. He was empty, and he's coming towards me, and of course the producers, the road was so rough, and up there in Yellowknife, it's like pavement, better than pavement. But it was so rough there in Manitoba, they had to be always looking at the camera, so the cameras didn't unplug themselves. So the camera unplugged itself, so it never got a good shot. And they come down around the corner, and here's this T800, bright yellow, canary yellow T800, and he got his hood into the snowbank, So he's kind of a little bit jackknifed, and I'm trying to go on a snowbank with a load of lumber, and I couldn't get in the snowbank. I was obviously not going that fast, and I hit him. It was perfect for TV, and I'm driving this new white Mac, and I hit him right in the one drive on the truck, and I knocked the tire off the rim. That was all I did to him, and it scarred up the hood a little bit in my truck, but it really didn't do very much. And there we were, and then the producer was sitting beside me, and he says, "Is this going to blow?" And so I started hollering, "It's going to blow! It's going to blow! Jump, jump, jump!" And he opened the door, and he just jumped. Boy, he jumps. He puts the jump. And he went right out of the bush. He went right out of the bush into all the brambles, the willows, and all about 4 feet of snow. 5 feet of snow.
That's great.
And I was killing myself laughing. And he comes back and he says, "I think I pulled my groin," he says.
Oh.
He was mad at me after. I think he bailed out me a couple of times. He said, "I'm not coming. I'm not even coming with you. I've had enough with you." And sore a few times too. Because I'd call those, they're all young guys. One guy there, he was threatening to beat me up just about on camera. And I'm looking at the camera and think, boy, I just want to give him a slap. But then I was thinking, maybe they're doing it this purpose. Maybe they're trying to make me mad. Maybe they want me to do something. Or maybe they're trying to set me up and get me in trouble. So I just sat there, and he says, "You called me stupid." I said, "You are." And I told him, I said, "I've got 11 children, and all of them are just, except for, I guess, about 9 of them are older than you are. I'm not putting up with your crap." Like they try to say different things and just BS you and things, So anyway, so we had some time was fairly traumatic. They probably what I had one guy by the name of Gorsuch out of California. Really, as a matter of, I don't know if you're familiar with. I'm a Roman Catholic, practicing Roman Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
Not a good example of Roman Catholic, but yet I'm a practicing Roman Catholic. And we ended up in the Nuvik, and we went into the real neat round church there. Went in the church, and I talked him into going to confession for the first time in 15 years. So that was, we went to confession. But anyway, and then the other one, another favorite was a lady producer, and she was very good. She was probably she was as good as Gorsuch. She was one of the best ones there too. But at the end, when I jackknifed, you might remember, I jackknifed that trailer, and I pretty well wrote the truck off. So they were really mad about that. They had to pay the $35,000 for the green. I think it was a green Western Star. And they try to blame it on her. So like we got along real well right up till basically the show was finished, and then she's trying to blame this whole thing on me. She figured I should pay for the truck. I said, "Yeah, all right." I said, "No way."
Good for you.
Yeah.
Wow, you've had quite some adventures here. We have to go to break, but we're talking to Alex Debogorski, one of the original stars of Ice Road Truckers. We've got some more stories coming up. You definitely have to stay tuned right here on TNCRadio.LIVE. This is the Truckers Network radio show. Stay tuned for more great stories coming up. Budgeting tips for over-the-road truck drivers. Budgeting can be rather overwhelming at first. It requires a plan and self-discipline. But there's no need to be scared. Once you get the hang of budgeting, it'll become easy and will no longer feel like you're restrained from your finances. It's a good feeling to know exactly how much you're spending and where your money's going. Start budgeting today, and you'll begin to save money and see a difference in your finances. Here are some great budgeting tips for over-the-road truck drivers. Know your why. The first step to creating a budget is understanding your why. What is your reasoning for creating a budget? What do you want to accomplish? Are you trying to pay off debt? Are you trying to save for a big purchase? Or are you just wanting to be more conscious of your spending? Knowing your why before creating a budget will help motivate you and keep you on track. Set goals. Setting goals will help you achieve your why. To pay off debt or to save a specific amount, you need to know how much you need to be saving and budgeting each month. It's much easier to save and budget when you have a specific goal. Saving just to save does not always keep you motivated. Know your income. Since drivers typically get paid by the mail, drivers have a fluctuating income. Unless you have a dedicated route, your paychecks will vary. Drivers with a set income have a much easier time creating their budget because they know the exact amount they're bringing in every month. If you have a fluctuating income, it's best to know your baseline, meaning you need to know the bare minimum expenses that you need to cover every month. Analyze your spending. Next, you'll need to analyze your spending habits. You can do that by looking at your bank account and examining where you're spending most of your money. Are you spending most of your money at truck stops? Fast food restaurants? Another great way to evaluate your spending is to make a list in a notebook or your cell phone for every purchase you make throughout the month. Keeping track of your spending will not only give you an idea of how much you're spending each month, it will also make you more mindful of your spending. Needs versus wants. When budgeting, it's important to know the difference between needs versus wants. Things you need as a truck driver: food, place to sleep, clothing, toiletries. Things you may want: entertainment, TV, video games, computers, Netflix or Hulu subscription, accessories for your rig. As a budgeter, you need to pay attention to your needs first and save for the things you want. Set a limit. Setting a spending limit is the best way to keep yourself from overspending. Write down all your necessary living expenses and keep in mind how much you want to save each month. Then determine how much you want to spend. A good method to help you set a limit is the envelope system. Budgeting takes time and self-discipline. It's not easy at first, but over time, it will become easier and easier. 6 safety tips for truck driving in hot weather. Driving in the heat can create dangerous situations for truck drivers. Drivers need to take specific precautions before hitting the road in extreme heat. When there's an incoming heat wave, drivers need to be aware of how to safely drive in these weather conditions. Follow the Truckers Network's 6 safety tips for truck driving in hot weather. Every truck driver needs to complete a pre-trip inspection before driving, especially in hot weather. Check your tires. Heat can have a huge effect on your tires. As the temperature increases, so does the air pressure in your tires. During the hottest months of the year, it's important to frequently check your tire pressure. Frequently checking your tires can save you from a blowout. To get an accurate measurement, wait for your tires to cool down before checking the pressure. The heat and friction from the road causes your tires to warm up, which will cause a rise in tire pressure. Also, don't be afraid to take a break every couple of hours to let your tires cool down. Protect your engine. Not only should you protect yourself from the heat, but you should also protect your engine. One way to keep your engine from overheating is to frequently check the engine oil. The oil keeps the engine cool and keeps the parts running smoothly. Engine coolant is just as important as engine oil. Coolant helps prevent the engine from overheating in extremely hot temperatures. Keep an eye on the coolant temperature gauge while driving. If the gauge goes above the safe temperature, pull over and see what's going on. Failing to look at the situation could lead to engine failure. Also, make sure to check for leaks in the hoses. A cracked hose can lead to engine failure. Check your brakes. Cold and hot weather affect your semi-truck's brakes. When you brake, you create a significant amount of friction and your brakes become extremely hot. When you add in hot weather, your brakes have an even higher chance of failing. To avoid your brakes from failing, brake gradually to decrease the amount of heat. Also, regularly check your brake pads to ensure they're working properly. Tips to protect yourself from the hot weather. It's just as important to protect yourself during extremely hot weather. Follow these tips to keep yourself cool and safe. Stock up on water. As the temperature increases, you need to increase your water intake. Make sure to always have water in your truck. You never know when you might get stuck in traffic or break down on the side of the road. Wear sunscreen. Many truck drivers forget this step. Even when you're in your truck, you're still exposed to the harmful UVA rays. Make sure to put sunscreen on before hitting the road. Wear light-colored clothes. Light-colored clothing reflects light, and dark-colored clothing absorbs it. Wearing light-colored, loose-fitting clothes helps you stay cooler and more comfortable.
This is the Truckers Network radio show on TNCRadio.LIVE. I'm Shelley Johnson with my co-host Tom Kirk today. We're talking with Alex Debogorski, one of the original stars of Ice Road Truckers. He has had some fantastic stories. Tom, you said you had a couple questions for Alex.
Yes, Alex. One of the things I've heard you kind of mention is your faith, and do you feel your faith has made you more successful as a truck driver, maybe especially on the ice road? How do you kind of make that work, and do you feel it's been valuable to you?
Well, I tell people I've been blessed to live life more than most people, because I live my life as Alex Debogorski. I live my life through my family, through the 11 kids and the 17 grandkids. I live my life through my faith, through the Bible, because I listen, look at the Bible, and still it talks about history. It talks about things happen again, and I feel sad for the people that don't have a belief in God, don't believe, because I have to put my hand. There's so many things I can't handle, so I put my hand. Let God look after it. And these people that don't have any belief, it's like they're trying to look after everything in life. So they have all these problems, and they have to fix it themselves. And we're just a bunch of dummies. They say that people in general, we know infinitely little of what there is to know. Well, infinitely little is next to zero. But anyway, yeah, that's the big thing. Yes, it makes me more successful. I'm wound a little bit tight as it is. I talk a little bit strange. I had a stroke a couple of years ago, but I went back to work in 5 days. They took my license for a month and did all the tests, and everything's fine. I just talk a little bit funny. I talked a little funny before too, but at the same time, like I say about the same faith, that I just let God handle it, especially there's so many things I can't figure out. So here, you handle it, and that makes it. And a lot of times, I'll get there's some prayers, and there's some different Christians got different ways of looking at things. Might say I'm full of baloney, but sometimes I go to see a guy. I want to talk to a guy about something, business or something else. And the guy is got animosity towards me, and so I pray to my guardian angel to go talk to his guardian angel and see if we can kind of settle things down through, we'd have a constructive discussion instead of a big argument or a fight. See? And so these things, and that helps me operate better.
That's really great information. Thank you so much. And I kind of look at things maybe a little bit differently than you, but it's on the same basic principle. So the other thing that I'm going to ask Alex is, you've mentioned you've had some health problems over the years and a bunch of other things, and some of your experiences, both good and bad, with the TV show. If you had advice that you could give to people in general, new drivers, old drivers, what would it be? And is some of that advice going to be found in your new book?
Well, as far as patience, I mean, it's life is about patience. We have to be patient with ourselves. We have to be patient with our spouses. We have to be patient with all the dummies, all the rest of the dummies, and us being dummies. God looks after dummies too. But we have to be patient. With the dispatchers, the weather, people being mad at you because you didn't get it done in time, but it couldn't be done in time anyway. So I think the number one thing is trying to develop one's patience for life and as a driver. Eh? That's what I think one of the most important advice a person can give.
Excellent. Could you tell us a little bit more about your book and where we can find it?
Well, it has been out for quite a while, so I don't think you see it too often at bookstores, but you can order it from the bookstore. King of the Road by Alex Debogorski, and it's but if you go to Amazon, it's been on Amazon, and then you can read. They got a write up on Amazon, talks a little bit about it, and it usually is a good write up. And they told me I got they send back enough stuff to make a second book. I just don't seem to find the time. As you get older, things go faster, and The book is mainly about my family, where they come from, all the silliness I went through, as a kid. I run into a freight train when I was 16. All these goofy things that happened in my life, and people have said that they've laughed, they've cried. My mother committed suicide when she was 32 years old, when I was 12 years old, and
sorry to hear
lots of sad things happen, lots of good things happen, and. I had a couple people tell me it was all BS. They said I made it all up, which kind of is a compliment in itself that they didn't really believe it, but it's pretty well all true.
And
I guess Amazon's probably the best place to get the book.
Okay. And what's the title of the book again, so everybody knows what to look for?
King of the Road.
Okay. Yeah, you are such a wonderful storyteller. Just here in this interview, I'm sure the book is the type of book that you don't want to set down. You just want to keep reading it.
I had a couple of people said that was the only book they read in their life, and they read it twice. But
very cool.
We also got. I wrote a song, or I wrote a poem or something, and a guy by the name of Johnny Neal, Neal. In Nashville, put it to music. It's on the I don't know where it can be found out there in the internet too. Okay. And they also have a tape of my laugh.
You do have.
I should know more about where this stuff is on the internet, but I don't really pay attention to that you can get for a ringtone if you decided.
Mm-hmm. You do have a fantastic laugh. It's just hearty. It's genuine, and you're just having a really good time.
I guess, yeah. Here, Diane passed me something. She says, I guess it's on iTunes, eh?
Oh, okay, all right. I will actually look that up because I'm very interested. So we've covered a lot of territory here, Alex. What do you want to be?
I also got a bunch of these YouTube. I haven't done any for a couple of years. I got a bunch of YouTube stuff about my junkyard, like my cars. I shouldn't be calling it a junkyard, but it's my junkyard. My cars and gold mining and a couple other Yellowknife things. I don't know. There's probably half a dozen things he did in YouTube. Nothing too big, but it's on there somewhere.
Well, I am thoroughly enjoying talking with you, Alex, and the hour has just flown by. We only have about a minute or so. I wanted to plug your book again here. It's King of the Road, True Tales from a Legendary Ice Road Trucker. And you said it can be obtained on Amazon. And do you have a website also?
Yeah.
I do have a website. What's our website?
You're asking your wife?
She's my manager, Diane. www.iceroadalex.com.
Okay, so anybody wanting more information, they can go to www.iceroadalex.com. That is totally awesome. And I've thoroughly enjoyed talking with you, Alex. I'd love to have you back because you've got some great stories and people are really enjoying it. You have under 30 seconds. I was wondering, could you tell us what you want to be when you grow up?
I think I've been thinking about that. I've been trying to decide what to be, and I don't think there's not going to be enough time in my life to get that one figured out. But thank you. I appreciate you all laughing at my jokes, and God bless America and all of you.
And God bless Canada.
Thank you so
Absolutely.
much, Alex.
Thank you very much.
TNCRadio.LIVE, your commercial driver navigation station.
Hi, this is Tom Kelly, managing partner of Emsico LLC, doing business as TNCRadio.LIVE. The website TNCRadio.LIVE and any content or podcast related to the website are copyrights of Emsico LLC, copyright 2021. All rights reserved. Any redistribution or reproduction of all or any part of the contents in any form is prohibited other than the following. We welcome you to download and play the publicly available podcast and share with others for personal use. Please acknowledge TNCRadio.LIVE as the source of the material. You may not, except with our express written permission, distribute or commercially exploit the content. And while we endeavor to keep the information up to date and correct, we make no representations or warranties of any kind expressed or implied about the completeness, accuracy, reliability, suitability, or availability with respect to the website, the podcast, or the information, products, services, or related graphics contained on the website or podcast for any purpose. Any reliance you place on such information is therefore strictly at your own risk. For additional information, including details regarding monetization of this podcast, send email to podcasts@tncradio.live.